wondering when the USFL had their coaches in for a photo shoot, Horton wasn't on there. Now Fisher and Todd Haley weren't either, but Horton wasn't there either. And so I think people were asking, where's Horton? Where has he disappeared to? And sure enough, there had been some rumors about a color change. We didn't know how substantial they were. We didn't know if that was actually going to be the case of something happening. And sure enough, of course, earlier this week, back on Tuesday, the USFL comes out. They had said the night before, 9 a.m. announcement Eastern time, and they joined the rest of the city of Pittsburgh, the rest of the Yinzer population, as they call it out there. I gotta say that honestly, they join it. They're black and gold now. Well, yeah, I mean, look, if I didn't say it, Ducky's going to come on here in the comments, and he is going to tell me that I should have mentioned it, at least in some capacity. So, long story short,
what Ducky says goes. So,
well, it does. It does. So that man has his own powers, and I cannot. I mean, hey, he got to even put in a question in Canton, Ohio, which I will bring that up soon. But here's the deal. Here's the deal, though. The Maulers, black and gold now, joining the Pittsburgh ecosystem. James, I'm going to be honest with you. I wanted to discuss this. Overall, I'm one of those guys. I like the change overall, but there is a special place in my heart that will miss the purple and orange. Not going to lie. Where are you at?
I'm with you there. So, like, it's funny because the purple and orange jerseys grew on me. Of course, I wasn't around when the original USFL was instated back in the 80s.
Nor was I, by the way.
Too. I had less of a connection to the purple and orange that, an original fan would have had. But I did like the jerseys. They grew on me. I think, funny enough, heading into the season in year one, I had put out an article ranking just, of course, my own subjective opinion on the uniforms. And I had Pittsburgh at 8. And the reason why Pittsburgh was dead last was because I was like, it just doesn't make sense because they're not the city's colors. Like, it just would make sense to have black and gold. So while I was like, the design looks good, it just doesn't fit Pittsburgh. So I'm happy that they made the change. I think from like a marketing perspective, it just makes so much sense. I mean, I don't know, like, say at some point they play at Heinz Field, or who knows where they'll play, right? But say they're playing football there in Pittsburgh, like, having a bunch of purple and orange mixed with, Steelers fans that are there wearing their black and gold, like, it's just not going to look good. So, like, they're all going to be home fans, but they look like two different teams, like, it just.
Well, yeah. Well, it does. I mean, it doesn't match the ecosystem. And that was something that got brought up a lot last season. As you can see in the promo videos that they had bringing us up, that was something that kept being requested all last year. People kept going, hey, look, Pittsburgh's got a team, in between, of course, other discussions on the said team, 1-9 season and the like doesn't help either. But you talk about some of the uniform changes and they're going, well, wait a minute. Why is this not matching the city's colors? Again, keep in mind, it's not just the Steelers we're referencing, which, by the way, I'll get into my thoughts on. I was curious about this and it apparently seems fine, but you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the main football team in town, the Pirates as well, and then you also have the Penguins, all established franchises, of course, and you also have, of course, the Riverhounds in the MLS that are out there too. They reference that as well, but that's the thing; it's their colors. And so, I guess my thing is, I think people are questioning, where does that come from? Well, in '84, when the Maulers originally showed up, they had these colors, and actually their colors, it was purple, Renaissance red, not orange. That's the official Wikipedia listing, by the way, for the original color scheme is Renaissance orange.
Look at you doing your research, Zach. I love it.
Hey, I'm just saying, look, it's like champagne silver. I personally would call it gold, but I was corrected by Jake, what Cheese Sodas he goes by, of course, online, one from the USFL Shadowcast as well. So he corrected me on that one back at the time. And, they chose that back in the 80s, and it was partially to deviate, from the Steelers at the time. Think about this. The USFL back in the 80s was about competing with the NFL. It was at that level. Today's is not the same. That has been well established. Right. But nowadays, you come in, okay, you're not competing with the NFL, so you ask yourself, can we use this color palette? I had questions, and I want to see what you think about this. My main questions were about, can you do the same color palette while referencing a steelworker with a second team in that city? That was my curiosity. Apparently, they did their homework. I was not shocked, Fox being that way, but that was something I was concerned about going in with this change, if it was the going to the rumored section of it.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point, one that I haven't really thought of. I think from a general standpoint, here's the thing: is like in another city, that might be a bit of a head scratching move. Like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But Pittsburgh, as Ducky likes to call it, it's the city of champions. And they bleed black and gold.
Yeah.
So I don't think it really matters what the team is. Like, they want to wear black and gold. Like, that is their identity, really. So yeah, I think of course Fox did the research, USFL did their research, and I think they got it right.
I mean, it certainly seems that way. Engagement was through the roof. The team, the team gained back already over 100 followers, or as it is. So clearly, something was working very well. Actually, I
Yeah,
take that
the
back. It was over
socials have
1,000 followers. I undershot that. That's the recording right now, by the way.
right. Yeah, they've gained at least 1,000. I'd say probably about 2,000 by now. I think. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
I mean, yeah, it's about 1,200. Yeah, because I'm one of those stat junkies. I check the Twitter feed ones. By the way, those are Twitter numbers. So if you hear anything like that, that is me. But yeah, they've gained at least 1,200 new followers just from the jersey alone. And credit, they got a
Right.
double whammy. So
Right. Well, that and sorry to cut you off there.
no.
But like the engagement, it's not just likes. Like, it's people that are quote tweeting it and like sharing it, like, wow, I'm so happy the Maulers are black and gold now. And like it's it's fans, it's people, it's like press as well. I know like there's been some Pittsburgh, different news outlets and whatever, they're like, hey, the Pittsburgh Maulers, they're back black and gold now, guys. They're close now in Canton, so you got to come out and support. So like that's been great to see, and I think it's exactly the result the USFL wanted.
Well, you see how special that color palette is. Like I said, it was apparently it was that big of a move to where they said, yeah, we can run with this and it will be beneficial to us, I think, in that term. And like I said, they did their homework, and now they're able to be joining up with the Steelers in terms of having that special city scheme that they get to be, I guess, more atoned with the city that they will be, working alongside and marketing towards. Is we get longer into the tenure of the USFL, these teams are going out to their cities fully one way or another at some point. So the best way you can assimilate in one section to me is getting black and gold coloring on your uniforms. The other thing is, how are the uniforms going to look, which is, I think, the next big question to a lot of people is, do you keep the same shoulder pad design that they had with the originals? Now, I'll give Ace from the USFL Network credit. He did some excellent mock-ups with this stuff on the fly on Photoshop. One of them was a Madre London concept that looked really dashing. I had a few guys that they did different setups where it was the away jerseys, where it's the white main color, yellow shoulder pads, and maybe a little black accents. There's one with black numbering with like box letters. There's a few combinations. We know the helmet is going to stay pretty much the same. Black helmet with the Maulers hammer steelworkers throw handle type of logo, just the same as that, but it's switched up to that colors now. I wonder. I'll let you think about this. To me, I think you should have it black pads for the home jerseys. That is black tops, yellow in the center. And then if you wanted to go the opposite way, you just flip where the white accents are on the away jerseys. The white goes back where it is, like the ones from last year, but you stick the black, keeping it up top.
Right.
I think there's a few ways you can go about it, but keep the base pattern, but the colors, that's going to be the choice to me that they'll have to balance the most.
I completely agree with that assessment, and for one, I love shouting out the USFL Network guys. Yeah, they had some really nice mock-ups. I saw the one, I think, from our buddy Webb with Madre London. I was like, man, I can't wait to see him out on the field rocking some of that swag. But But yeah, I think I would like to see them keep the general design because the Maulers are one of the few jerseys in the USFL as of right now that has like a little bit of a different design, with those
Mhm.
shoulder pads, like the color accents there. So I think that they should stick to something like that just to switch things up a little bit, right? And hopefully, I mean, we know they're gonna get it right. I mean, they've done everything right so far with that. So I'm excited to see what the reveal is gonna look like.
Yeah, it should be stoked because now we'll have 2 jersey reveals coming up. Remember, Showboats are still that's one. We're still waiting to see. That's going to be probably
Yeah,
sooner rather than later now that you
part
think.
of me was somewhat expecting it to possibly happen during the Canton Hub announcement, but it didn't, and I'm sure it's coming soon.
Yeah, that is something I was surprised by. I mean, you have a good opportunity there. I mean, credit, Coach Horton was out with the rest of the coaches out in LA doing promo videos as well. So I was kind of wondering if maybe that they would get some photos there too, possibly. Um, we will find out. I mean, keep in mind, if we're talking about PR and kind of building up hype for a league, it's good to spread that content out a little bit. So that jersey, you can probably wait a bit if you wanted. Not terribly long, but the schedule
Right.
to me, that's something that's going to be more of in focus for people next. And then maybe you wonder about the jerseys after that, depending on when that drops, But the Maulers, I mean, I think to me, they stick with a similar pattern. It was
I agree.
working, I thought. So there were a lot of people that either they were diehard fans of that pattern. They just maybe didn't like the color. So I think you stick to me. I just think you stick with it. I think you do that.
I agree. I mean, and right, and there's nothing wrong with the Maulers uniforms in 2022.
No.
The purple and orange is not a bad thing by any means. It's just black and gold, of course, as we've already gone over. Fits
Yeah.
the city, like it just makes sense. So yeah, I'd say stick with a similar design and just go from there. That's probably their best bet, and at the same time, probably their easiest decision too. Like that way they don't have to actually completely redesign it. They just got to figure out what colors go where.
Yeah, I think a lot at that time it becomes more about what fabrics you're buying in terms and dyes that you go into with the fabric. Because that I mean, for the most part, you can keep the same dimensions of every one of the cuts. You just have to switch out what your fabric types are in terms of that color palette. So,
Right.
in that could be an easier thing where you're not. I won't call it wasting time, but I would say you're utilizing your time better at that point and keeping something that at least fundamentally the concept of the jersey worked well. The colors will make it pop better now this time than maybe even some people thought in the past. Is the deal.
Couldn't have said it
Well,
any better myself.
try my best. Hey, look, I ain't perfect. Sometimes I get lucky. This is the time I get lucky. Apparently, I
I
do.
think this time you just had the perfect research, honestly, Zach. I mean, you're doing great.
Well, hey, look, I
Get
do.
an A plus from me right now.
I've done
So
some
keep it up. I
solo.
don't want to put that grade down.
I
So
did some hosting here and there. I've done
yeah,
a few shows of my time. Just saying.
just one or two maybe.
Just
I'd
keep
say
in
at least
mind,
one or two.
it's not like I put on my profile. I do too many shows anyway.
Right.
Look, I love podcasting, man. Love being on here. And look, Ray Horton, I think he loves those colors. One quote that he had, or at least he was, I think perfect encapsulation, final thoughts, at least with the Pittsburgh coloring, said, quote, Pittsburgh appropriate. That was one of the Maulers posts on their social media back on Tuesday was about just his comments. And again, they had withheld his videos, his pictures from that coaching event, or at least that coaching get together. So they just kind of sprung it on there as like perfect timing type of thing because they had to surprise people. So he's obviously excited. Him being, of course, a former Pittsburgh head coach himself, Super Bowl
Right.
championship, or not head coach, but in the coaching staff himself for multiple Super Bowl runs. I got to clarify that, of course. Of course, this is his first head coaching gig, though. Really happy for him. A lot of people are excited to see him, I think, in that spot. And that also helps with connecting to the Pittsburgh market as somebody like that.